Ladies and gentlemen, I hope everyone is good in their homes and wherever they are. The Rio Multiple 3231 has come up with this new initiative called JAGROok, where the multiple PRO team, under the leadership of Henal and Saiba, have decided to enlighten people about the basic laws and rights that they have. And for this very thing, we have tied up with none other than a very talented advocate and super specialist, I would like to say, in this field. We have LLB, or what should I call, lawyer Arpita Bhatt with us.
Yes.
And Arpita has her own YouTube channel, so this is more of a collaboration that we are doing. So Arpita, if you would like to elaborate on it, Blue, if I'm not wrong. Blue and
Yeah.
You, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so Blue and You also has a similar purpose, the way Jaagrook has, and it's about the basic law understanding that we want to give to the citizens of India, having seen that there is a lacuna among the citizens knowing the basic law that exists in their country. So that's more about Blue and You, and we have started with the Instagram page, and soon we'll be exploring other models.
Lovely. So today, Arpita, what are we discussing about?
So, if we see, since the year has begun, the most burning issue had been COVID. So, while we have seen how many cases have come up, we have seen that how the industry is functioning, how the healthcare is all about, but many of us don't know what's the legal issue that actually comes up when it is blue, as in the entire hospitality sector. So I feel that we should today, in fact, throw some light on the legal issues involved with COVID-19 and healthcare sector, and understand what a normal citizen can do when he or she is infected with COVID.
So, Arpita, as we all saw that COVID-19 came out of thin air. None of the countries were ready for this very pandemic. In a nation like ours, India, where healthcare and education, as it is, are in ICU, if I can say that, if I can use that analogy, and in this, we were hit by this huge catastrophe by the name of COVID-19 pandemic. But legal front, there were a few laws that came into effect after decades or after centuries, if we can talk about that.
Yeah. So ideally, when we see COVID-19 in the scenario, दो basic law जो already India में exist कर रहे थे, वो सब I would say prime light में आ गए. They were the Epidemic Diseases Act 1897, which is again a century-old statute, and you have the Disaster Management Act 2005. When we see the Epidemic Diseases Act, ये बहुत ही छोटा सा act है. It has only 5 sections in it, but yet a very powerful one because it empowers state to come up with laws whenever the country or whenever the state is down with certain kind of epidemic. And under the same act, there is a penalty also imposed. That penalty is referred to section 188 of IPC. IPC की धारा 188 में अगर हम देखें तो it is said to be an offense अगर एक इंसान किसी दूसरे इंसान की या बहुत सारे जनता की जान जोखिम में डालता है तो that person is liable to be imprisoned for 6 months, and there is a fine also imposed which amounts to 2,000 rupees. So these are the things which are there in Epidemic Disease Act. Whereas when we see the Disaster Management Act, again it's the act which is more of empowering in nature because इस act में section 10, section 18, section 36 जो हम देखते हैं. So basically your section 10 धारा 10 और धारा 36 उसके अंदर there are powers given to the national, that is the government, your central government, to frame up laws, to frame up guidelines whenever the country is hit with an epidemic or whenever the country is hit with any kind of disaster. And if we see one of the particular section, that is section 18, then the state government also is also empowered to frame up guidelines. And basis these two acts, I think over past few months, what India saw, that is upsurge in various guidelines, notification. I think all of them have their birth under these.
So apart from the COVID-19 scenario, any other things in any other precedent where these acts were triggered or they were put into force?
So, Disaster Management Act is often triggered in the country whenever there is, let's say, some kind of flood that has hit any state very severely, very badly, affecting the economy, affecting the people in the state. That's when these guys, as in the state government, takes up its role, and with the help of the state executive committee, it frames guidelines, and it also gives reliefs to the people. That's when we hear, or that's when we see in the news that okay, XYZ crore rupees of fund has been set up to help the people who are affected in that flood prone area. So yes, these acts have usually taken its part, except for the Epidemic Diseases Act, because like you very well said, that it's a century old law, and I think it has come to the testing time in this millennial with COVID-19. So definitely it needs a lot of modification.
Well, that was indeed insightful, Arpita. Thank you so much. And as you said that in the National Disaster Relief Act, there are many guidelines that are issued by the various governments. So इस बार भी क्या सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट या स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने गाइडलाइंस पास की थी और कितनी रेकरिंग थी, कितनी जल्दी एक दूसरे एक के बाद एक आ रही थी, उसके बारे में अगर आप बता दो.
Sure. So जब ये nationwide lockdown impose किया गया था, so under the Disaster Management Act, it empowers the central government to have a national executive committee, और इसके अंदर ये guidelines दी गई थी with respect to lockdown, as to what all things will be allowed. हमने बहुत बार पिछले 6-8 महीनों में सेक्शन 144 imposition of section 144 ये बहुत ही सुना था. That is again a power that is being given by which the movement of citizens has to be restricted. And while we also understand there's an entire new gamut also to this. If you see constitution के अंदर you have right to free movement in your nation, but again your state government can put restrictions on. And similarly under section 144 that is being allowed by the government to do. So guidelines, I think अगर हम तीव्रता पूछे कि कितनी तीव्रता से guidelines, I could remember that at least in a month 3 से 4 guidelines आती गई. And state government ने भी काफी guidelines दी. For example, currently also in Mumbai, whereas there is a nationwide unlock movement that is going on, we still have certain kind of lockdown and restrictions imposed on us. And additionally, in specific अगर कोई guidelines हमें आज के लिए ध्यान में रखनी चाहिए, तो वो है एक guidelines that was given with respect to fixing of rates for RT-PCR testing. That is your COVID-19 test, जिसकी rates 4,500 rupee रखी गई थी in the beginning, somewhere in the month of March, April, and later on there were PILs that were filed in the Supreme Court, and due to that the Supreme Court had directed the governments to come up with a framework to reduce the rates. And the government did do that. They did reduce the rate and bring it to 2,800 rupees. And currently, as per the 7th August guideline, it is 2,500 rupees. It's very important to know this amount because private labs क्या कर रही है, अभी भी उन्हें पता है कि कई जगहों पे काफी सिटीजन्स को पता नहीं होता है रेट्स क्या है, तो 2,500 की जगह 2,800 भी वो चार्ज कर रहे हैं. Just because you are not well updated that it is 2,500 rupees. So many times you as a citizen are required, or you as a patient are required to tell them that it's 2,500 rupees. And apart from that, there's one more guideline which is very important for today, is the one by the state government, wherein they had taken steps to fix the rates for the hospitals. So we have seen in the month of April, March, May, June, until now that hospitals are exorbitantly charging amounts from the citizens, the COVID patients who are admitted. So state government came up with the guidelines and they fixed the rate, and the rates were which were fixed were quite nominal, and they divided in 3 categories. One was for isolation bed, second is for your ICU without ventilator, and third is for your ICU with ventilator. So jo isolation bed hai, that is for rupees 4,000 per day. Your ICU without ventilator comes to around 7,500 rupees per day, and your ICU with ventilator comes to around 9,000 rupees per day. But the catch here is that these guidelines are applicable only to two sections of citizens. One, those who don't have insurance policy, and second are those who have exhausted their insurance cover, thereby leading people in a grey area, the maximum people of India who have insurance, as to what do they do now.
Right.
So they are still target of that overcharging. So these two specific guidelines, I believe everyone should go through, and it helps. So when you are hospitalized.
So just to understand, you said that 2,500 is what the maximum that they could charge.
Correct.
But there are few clinics जो बोलते हैं कि we'll come to your home and do the testing.
Right.
वहाँ पे they write visiting charge or some other charge.
They do.
Are they allowed to do this?
No, because the guideline says that sample collection from the residential premises.
Oh, it's
So,
specifically
yes,
mentioned.
It
over there.
specifically mentions
Okay.
that. So that's why the cap is 2,500. And yeah, in the garb of saying that it's home visit, they do charge extra amount, which a person should be cautious of, because that should not be charged.
So be Jaagrook, that is what we are saying over here. I see. And Arvind, just one more thing. You said that there are two categories of people who are insured or have exhausted their insurance and the other ones.
Correct.
So what if I have an insurance but I don't want to opt for that insurance? Is it possible that I will be transferred to the other category where I can avail the benefits?
Yes, so ideally, I will talk with respect to the state of Maharashtra, wherein there is something known as quota. If you go through the municipal corporation to any of the hospitals, then in that case, by default, you fall under this guidelines. And they may not ask you for your insurance policy or whether you have insurance or not. So that means you can avail the benefit of these charges. Of course, that comes with its own pros and cons, wherein the bed sharing and the room sharing and all, it differs. So people who have insurance, they usually prefer that why not avail the benefit of insurance, because the central government had come up with this big headline saying that all your insurance policies should cover COVID-19, and that's how insurance policies should function.
So it's indeed, there are many new things that we are learning right now. I myself, thrown to a new laws and new ideas and new things all together. So after taking this ahead, जब भी हम हॉस्पिटल में जाते हैं, we are questioned कि cashless है या cash वाला है, and जब हम cashless बोलते हैं तो हमारी insurance policy की details मांगते हैं. कोविड के सिनेरियो में अगर if I am found to be COVID positive and I want myself to be admitted to one of the hospitals, how different is this experience when we are getting an admission through insurance and cashless में जब हम hospital में जाते हैं? How different is this experience?
So more or less it still remains the same, wherein you are being asked whether you have insurance cover or not. The very first process, if you approach a hospital directly, is whether you have insurance. If yes, whether you would like to go with the cashless process. So it's quite similar to what existed before COVID, whereas what differs here is the security deposit amount. Hospitals can charge security deposit amount until and unless it is reasonable. But what have been observed recently is that there are exorbitant amount being asked for in the name of security deposit by hospitals. Reason being, there are GIC guidelines, that's your General Insurance Council has introduced guidelines which are a reference rates for insurance companies. So, इसमें क्या होता है कि जैसे DMC ने अपनी गाइडलाइंस निकाल दी, उन्होंने रेट्स फिक्स कर दिए, वैसे इंश्योरेंस कंपनी को भी पता चला कि द ग्रे एरिया इसके जो इंश्योर्ड लोग हैं उनके लिए क्या. So they have made a reference rate for hospitals to charge per day, wherein उन्होंने बोला है similar 3 divisions किए हैं: isolation, ICU without ventilator and ICU with ventilator. However, there is further categorization जो उन्होंने metropolitan city, non-metro cities and rest of the country के हिसाब से amount divide किए गए हैं. So we talk about metropolitan cities. So in metropolitan city, the rates that they have fixed is for the isolation bed to be rupees 10,000 per day, which is an upper limit. For your ICU without ventilator is rupees 15,000 per day, and for the third category, that is with ventilator, is rupees 19,000 per day. So with this reference rate, they have also come up with plethora of rate chart for, let's say, अगर कोई COVID patient admit होता है hospital में, तो hospital does charge amounts like everyday blood testing, कभी कभार CT scan. There are various other reports that are being generated. तो ये सारे चीजों में hospital charges various amounts. तो इंश्योरेंस कंपनी हैज नोटिस दैट आल्सो, एंड इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ने ये भी बोला कि उसे भी लिमिट कर देते हैं कि there should be a cap of not more than 2,000 rupees, there should be a cap of not more than 500 rupees for that glucose testing and all. So वो rates भी है, but we observe that hospitals are right now in loggerheads with insurance company. तो जब ये security deposit amount जो आपके पास से ली जाती है starting, whereas you as a COVID patient or a relative of COVID patient, when you approach the hospital, आपको शायद ना पता हो कि इतनी exorbitant 2 लाख, 2.5 लाख, 3 लाख ऐसे random amounts बोली जाती है depending on the hospital, especially in the city of Mumbai. So you are just in that frame of mind कि COVID is, especially if your relative is a senior citizen, I need to arrange for the money because I want the medication to start. So वो पैसे तो आप इकट्ठा करके दे देते हो उनको, पर जब बाद में आप सोचते हो कि इंश्योरेंस कंपनी विल टेक केयर ऑफ इट, द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट इंश्योरेंस कंपनी हैज इट्स गाइडलाइन. तो इंश्योरेंस कंपनी में अगर हॉस्पिटल बिल दे देता है उनको 15 दिन के हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन का, लेट्स से अराउंड 10 लाख और 15 लाख रुपीस,
वेरी नॉर्मल थिंग है.
करेक्ट,
ये अमाउंट जो है काफी नॉर्मल है.
राइट. सो उस हिसाब से इंश्योरेंस कंपनी अपने रेट चार्ट को फिक्स करके रखती है, एंड इट मे नॉट अलाउ दैट कैप ऑफ लेट्स से 10,000, 15,000 or 19,000 depending on the condition per day. And there is also one more thing observed in the name of PPE. Now again, there are guidelines issued by state government that PPE charges have to be regulated, and a hospital cannot charge more than if it is a reusable PPE, then 900 rupees per PPE kit.
Okay.
And you see hospitals charging, especially private hospitals, charging somewhere around 2,500 rupees. I mean, there is definitely something wrong somewhere. And
this I'm sorry to cut you, but this 2,500 is per patient per day.
Yes.
पर
So-
वो डॉक्टर तो एक साथ 20 पेशेंट को भी ट्रीट कर सकते हैं.
Exactly. So that's the gray area. जब ये बोलते हैं कि हम per patient के पास से let's say 3 लोगों का PPE kit charge करते हैं, assuming per day. So there are, when you ask hospitals questions like what if the doctor is not changing the PPE kit, it's going to examine the other patient with the same PPE kit. At that time they say that while they acknowledge that, but they have to take care of other staffs also. So they consider saying कि वो 3 PPE kit सिर्फ आपके डॉक्टर के लिए नहीं है, हो सकता है कि आपको जो नर्स आती है संभालने उनकी PPE kit के चार्जेस है, जो वार्ड बॉय आता है जो आपके वहाँ पे क्लीनिंग नीटनेस सब मेंटेन करता है, उसके चार्जेस है. सो इन दिस समवेयर there is definitely some kind of overcharging that you as a person who is insured and who is somewhere in between this GIC guidelines and hospital charges have to suffer. So that's what is happening right now.
And these GIC guidelines are given. They aren't enforced on the insurance company. So our insurance company technically hiding behind these guidelines and is in a way restricting the payout or something like that. What's your take on that?
Well, I would say that like the GIC reference rates, that's what they call. It's a reference rate, and when you read it thoroughly, you get to know that they are not imposing it on insurance company to follow it, but somewhere, like rightly asked, that insurance company is taking shelter under that reference rate chart, and they are kind of telling you that they won't be paying more than this amount that is being there in the reference rate. So yeah, that's the
Then legally, what should be the case over here? If I have an insurance of let's say 5 lakh and the insurance company taking the stand that GIC guidelines say that I have to pay only 3 lakhs to you, and balance 2 lakhs will be deducted from my deposit that I have paid. can I contest or can I challenge that thing that wherein I can claim my 2 lakhs?
Yes, of course. I think you have the insurance ombudsman before whom you can fight this case out. Now, so there is two-sided approach which one can usually take. One is to understand whether there is overcharging done by the hospital, and second is to understand whether these reference rates are compulsory to be followed by insurance company. Because when a person takes insurance, of course, COVID is a very, in a way, a very noble situation for all of us to face it. So yes, there are two-sided approach. One can either go to the insurance ombudsman, file a case against the insurance company, and see what comes up. Because this is a new area wherein a lot of consumer complaints are filed, wherein a lot of PILs are filed, but nothing concrete has come out till now. So it would be definitely interesting to know whether which way the balance is. I mean, whether it's overcharging or whether it's insurance who can come to your help.
So is it correct to state that maybe if a decision is passed wherein the government or the authorities give the affected party an additional, release of payment from the insurance company, and others who are affected, they can take that precedent and go to the insurance company and ask for their claims. Can such a case come up in the near future? What should I expect with this case?
I think definitely, since there's a diff which we can see with the working class in India, and they have filed, as in personally also, I have come across people who have filed cases against the insurance company because they were supposed to shell out 5 to 6 lakh rupees from their own pocket, which is a big amount. And so yeah, if somewhere the decision comes in favor of the insured, then in that case that will definitely be taken as a precedent, and I think that that very much solves the entire issue if the insurance company is ready to cover you with the entire amount, especially if your sum assured is covering your bill amount which is there with the hospital.
So that amount should be released.
Yes, that should be.
Having said that, Arpita, there have been many cases where the hospitals have overcharged. And we being good friends, we had discussed one of the case wherein you had assisted one of your very good friends in a case wherein they were overcharged and you had literally fought with the hospital authorities and fought as in not literally fought,
right.
but in a way fought with the hospital authorities and the police was called over there. This is what I have heard. So if you could just throw some light on that, and maybe we can motivate some people and help them from being overcharged.
Correct. So in India, especially in your Indian Penal Code, okay, which talks about criminal offences, it is one of the offence to unlawfully restrain someone. So let's take an example. If a patient is cured and the doctor happens to issue discharge summary saying that the patient should be discharged, and the hospitals don't discharge the patient only on the basis that the bill is not cleared. So somewhere that is unlawful restraint, which is wrong on the part of hospitals. And as a vigilant citizen, one must actually put their foot down and stand in front of the hospital and say that settling of the bill is one matter, but that cannot give right to the hospital to illegally put the patient in the hospital just because the bill is not cleared. And yes, if for that mechanism you have to take step, like I said, it's a criminal offense, and the best thing to do in such scenarios is to call up cops and ask them to come to your aid. And most of the situation, the first thing is to try and actually make the hospital understand that they are doing wrong. In India, what happens is sometimes when a person or when an organization is wrong, they really need to be told why are they wrong. So if still they are unable to understand, then definitely your way out is to call up cops, and it gives a sense of, trust me, it does settle the issue and the patients are released, although the bill settlement continues. And another aspect that is also observed here is that hospitals usually say that you are unable to clear your dues, or you don't have the intention of making payments. So there is this question that surfaces: as a working professional or as a working population with an insurance, or let's say as a businessman with an insurance, if you are giving the hospital your insurance policy, which very well covers the total amount that's being charged by the hospital for COVID-19 treatment. And you are also paying the security deposit amount. How and where the question of not paying the bill to the hospital arises, because it clearly shows your intention of payment even before the services they provided. So that is one more area which one needs to keep in mind, and yeah, police is way out if
Correct me if I'm wrong. The crux of this thing is that अगर आप COVID-19 की ट्रीटमेंट दे रहे हो या कोई भी ट्रीटमेंट दे रहे हो फॉर दैट मैटर, और हॉस्पिटल में आप एडमिट हुए हो, एंड अगर आप कोई भी कारणवश बिल पे नहीं कर पा रहे हो, तो हॉस्पिटल आपको बंदी बना के नहीं रख सकते. दिस इज व्हाट यू कैन कॉल इन द पुलिस इफ दैट थिंग इज हैपनिंग.
right,
पेमेंट के लिए हॉस्पिटल आपके ऊपर केस कर सकते हैं अगर आप पेमेंट नहीं कर रहे हो.
right,
बट इन नो गिवन केस वो लोग आपको बंदी बना के हॉस्पिटल में नहीं रख सकते.
yes,
आप पेमेंट कर दो तब तक हम आपको छोड़ने वाले हैं.
right. That cannot be
This is
done.
a criminal offense.
Yes.
Correct. That's nice. That was you. That was us making you Jaagrook. So Arpita, we had an in-depth discussion about the guidelines that were issued by the GIC and the government of India and the government of Maharashtra collectively. But how the courts intervened in this? Have they issued any guidelines with regards to what charges should the hospital charge, or they have set in a cap जिसके आगे hospitals charge नहीं कर सकते? ऐसा कुछ हुआ है आपके ध्यान में?
So well, I think after these guidelines that were issued, we did see an upsurge in the writ petitions that were filed in the Supreme Court and various high courts. And a few of the cases that I would like to discuss per se today is one of them, specifically being the Jaagrook case. And when we see in that case, the main petition was that was filed against the Union of India. So they wanted the COVID-19 tests to be done for free of cost.
Okay.
For all the citizens, and be it private hospital, government hospital, it should be free of cost. And somewhere in April 2020, Supreme Court even issued an order directing the governments to make it free of cost. But there was an intervention application filed, and what happened was, इसमें उनको ये बताया गया कि there is already an आयुष्मान भारत योजना. उस योजना के अंदर the economically weaker section of the society will be given these COVID tests for free. So they just wanted to strategically place that there exists a distinction. So सबके लिए free नहीं कर सकते because procurement cost and all those test processing, and they have entire human resource involved. So they said making it free won't be viable for everyone. At the same time, in order to meet the needs of the economically weaker section, they tried putting them into the Ayushman Bharat Yojana and said that for them it is free of cost. And the second question that was being ideally discussed in this case was that whether the rates in the hospital should be regulated.
Yeah.
But very beautifully observed by the Supreme Court that when it comes to the hospitals, government hospitals, private hospitals, they fall under the state list, and the state was not party to this writ petition. So that's why they cannot make any kind of remark until and unless they go ahead and hear the state. So that was one thing. While the case is still on, it's not yet disposed of. And there was one more writ petition that was filed, and that was in the Sachin Jain case versus the Union of India again. And again, the basis of this writ petition was to regulate the charges, to regulate prices that are imposed by the government hospitals, by the private hospitals on the citizens. And again, it is still a debated matter by the Supreme Court, wherein you don't really see the court directly giving out some kind of guidelines or directions, but a reference was made to the National Health Bill of 2009, and it was definitely told to the government that they have to set up a committee. They need to look into the matter. They were given timelines of 2 weeks and 3 weeks to take up the serious issue of price regulation by the hospitals, so that the citizens are basically, they have their own rights, and they are the law is not misused against the citizen, it comes to the aid of the citizen. So while these two were two main writ petitions, there was one more petition that was being filed by somebody known as Shoaib against the KJ Somaya Hospital. And this petition is very interesting because what we observe is, like we had discussed earlier, हमने देखा कि जब हॉस्पिटल में किसी का एडमिशन वगैरह करवाते हैं, after that the discharge process is being done, तो उसमें they say that okay this is a let's say total bill, या फिर स्टार्टिंग में जब एडमिट करते हैं तब बोला जाता है कि आप सिक्योरिटी डिपॉजिट का एक पर्टिकुलर अमाउंट दो. तो इस केस में भी समवेयर अराउंड 12 लाख का बिल था, एंड कैसे भी करके शोएब, Mr. Shoaib, who is the petitioner in this case, he happened to accumulate around 10 lakh rupees and deposit it. But at the same time, hospital denied discharge of the patient, saying कि आपने bill clear नहीं किया है. So until and unless you clear off that bill, we can't really discharge you. At that moment, he tried to explain the hospital that economically it's not viable for him. And what was argued in this case was something very beautiful. They said that if the person was from economically weaker section, he should have been admitted under the 10% quota that is reserved in the hospital for COVID-19 beds. And very well defended, I would say, is that they said, how do you do so? Are you like trying to say that before admission, because when you say economically weaker section, the hospital will definitely ask for certain kind of certificates, given the entire lockdown and the situation specifically in Mumbai. They said that how can you expect somebody to come up and give you this certificate first, saying that okay, I'm from economically weaker section, give me that 10% quota and please admit me in that quota and give us the bed. One thing which somewhere I feel everyone is failing to understand is that the entire mental stigma that is being associated with COVID-19, when a patient is admitted, the relative who is accompanying the patient, they are not really in that correct frame of mind, and they are obviously because you don't know how this entire corona spreads and how much time the hospitalization will take. Will the person will be all fine, whether the symptoms will aggravate, all those things are grey area for every individual who is being admitted. And the cases differ from patient to patient.
Right.
So when we see in broad, there were a number of petitions being filed, but everything is in the proceeding stage, and we haven't come across any particular order which says that okay, fine, hospitals cannot charge more than this. So I think in the given time, I believe that there should be some of the amazing judgments that can help the citizens and especially those affected with COVID-19 in real sense by hospitalization, and it comes to their aid. That's what I believe.
So, since you are talking about courts, I just need your personal opinion on this. It maybe a slight aggressive one, but my question to you is that what do you feel should the courts have been a bit proactive when it came to a situation like COVID, which was unprecedented? And again, we have seen that both the state government and central government had 10 different things to look into. So somewhere down the line, their focus wasn't on hospitals. So should the courts would have sworn to intervened initially, and then they would have had a cap? Or for that matter, we have seen reports as well for the migrants who traveled because they saw some fake news on TV, because COVID-19 as a whole was blown out of proportion. So what do you feel as a practicing lawyer? Do you feel that court should have been proactive enough to intervene at the right time and see to it that mentally this thing was taken care of? Because we cannot right now blame the government, because this is a century kind of a thing. They had 10 or 20 or 100 different things to focus on. So just your take on it, your opinion. Simply.
Yeah. So I have seen, we have rather seen in past 6-8 months, there have been suo motu actions taken. There have been petitions filed suo motu in the Supreme Court itself. And while Supreme Court doesn't really have, I would use the word jurisdiction per se to frame any kind of law, but as far as possible, they have tried issue directions to the government, because in India, like we all know, that framing of the statute, the draft, or maybe the act. It falls everything in the hand of your legislative wing. So what they have tried their best is to somewhere push the government and really make it stringent for them to frame law. At the same time, yes, I do understand that they are currently working on, I would say, 90 to 100% of things, and there is a lacuna of a particular law because this is a novel situation that is being faced by government. So judiciary somewhere has done its best that it can, and I believe that in the coming months we will definitely see the light in the end of the tunnel, which should help us and give us some positive verdict.
All right. So, is there a chance, because especially in a city like Mumbai, where healthcare is anything but not cheap, is this there a chance because people have, out of the mere fear of COVID-19 and weak knowledge about COVID-19, they have spent so much money, maybe to the hospitals or doctors. So, with the rules coming in or the judgments coming in, is there a ray of hope for them कि उनका पैसा जो उन्होंने ज्यादा भरा है वापस मिलने का कोई चांस है, कुछ 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 1% any chance for that matter?
So, I think that's a very good question, firstly, because whenever we see a judgment or a verdict, maybe in favor of some COVID 19 patient or an entire community per se by way of the petitions, so what will happen is that the time that has gone by and people who have already paid in the amount since the law, or I would say since the judgments may not really have a retrospective effect, so they might not be able to avail the particular judgment in a particular case. But taking that as a base, they can definitely file a suit which can help them get same kind of justice which they have seen happening in similar circumstances. So yes, I believe that one has to be proactive in that case, especially in the city like Mumbai. And I mean, yes, healthcare here is way too expensive, and looking at the infrastructure and everything in place, I believe that it's better to take a suo motu action on your own and file a petition.
So, if at all they want to file this case, basis a case law in their hand, should they approach a consumer court or any other court?
So let's say, firstly, just taking a step back, if at all after the entire billing, insurance, and whatever is done, if a patient is unhappy, then like we explained and like we have seen earlier, that they can go to the insurance ombudsman against the insurance. At the same time, in the state of Maharashtra, specifically in Mumbai, there have been nodal officers appointed based on the hospitals.
By the central government?
Yes, by the central government. And these nodal officers, so what happens is, if you feel that you're being overcharged, you need to file a complaint and to any of these 4 nodal officers, depending on which hospital have you been in. And these nodal officers will take an action based on your complaint. They will ask the hospitals to provide their set of clarifications, and they will try and understand whether there was an overcharging involved or not. And one good thing that is happening is they are also conducting an audit. So they have a committee that is being set up right in the premises of the hospital, who will go, item by item to understand how and under what parlance has the hospital charged you a particular amount. So that is one thing that happens. And let's say if you fail somewhere there, if after that entire analysis they say that, okay, we feel that there may not be any overcharging or whatever the circumstances is, then do you have any other remedy? As in, does a COVID-19 patient who is affected by this has any other remedy? Yes, of course. So consumer complaint being one of it. However, it is very important to determine here whether there was deficiency of services on the part of doctors, whether there was deficiency of services on the part of hospitals. And when you say that there is overcharging, how do you define it? Because these hospitals, if you see, no one is really providing you a rack rate right now. When you go and when you say that, okay, XYZ want to be admitted to the hospital, what's the kind of room you want, twin sharing, super deluxe, and just like, a hotel, they have their own entire mechanism that this is the rate, this is it, but they tell you everything globally. They don't give you any kind of rate schedule.
Right.
And I am sure none of the patients who are going there will actually, at the first instance, say that, okay, please give me in black and white, what is the rate charge? You just want the admission out there. So yes, consumer complaint is second way out, and I believe that these two being in hand, I think that should be able to solve the issue. There are consumer complaints already filed with respect to overcharging of bill, but we haven't seen any verdicts yet. So it'll be interesting to see what the courts determine.
That's right. And Arvind, once again, I have been made to understand that you were in touch with one of the nodal officers with the case that you were handling of your friend. I think they are IAS officers where they are well known and well trained with the circumstances. So, what had been your personal experience?
So, what we had observed in that case is that yes, they are cooperative. They do their set of research. At the end, when they see that, let's say there are the hospitals, they may not really, like I said, the rack rate is something because somewhere they may not have it. Okay, they don't even reveal it, and they kind of say that we don't want to give any kind of clarifications. So that's when nodal officers' duty is to prima facie go into the premises, ask for the bills. So they have done it. We were fortunate enough that in the case that we saw and experienced, nodal officers did ask for bills and clarifications, but at certain point, beyond which, when the hospital says that, okay, fine, this is the maximum amount, or they kind of garb it in the way that no more charges, we give you discount. I mean, where does the discount element come into the picture? So those things somewhere were not argued by nodal officers, and they did their set of research and their set of procedure, but at the end of the day, you still don't really know what is the rack rate. You still don't really know that whether, as per the government regulation, the hospital cannot charge anything more than what they used to charge before COVID.
Right.
Let's say, for example, before December 2019. So you don't know whether hospital is charging the same. And today, I'm sure you randomly give a call to hospitals, and in fact, this was done in as a kind of survey to understand. And we have come across hospitals saying different amounts of security deposit to different people calling them. To some, it was being said that depending on the hospital, let's say quarter to 2 lakhs. To some, it was said 2.5 lakh is our security deposit. I mean, you can't differentiate patients as per your whims and fancies. So yeah, that's the thing that was observed.
So what I understand from this article is that there is no yardstick against which we can match the thing अगर इन्होंने सही किया है गलत किया है. This is a loophole जिसका सहारा लेके वो बच सकते हैं इसमें.
Yes.
Alright. So that brings me to my next question. Do you feel that there is an immediate need to regulate it? To regulate it by a good bill which standardizes the cost.
Correct.
So what's your take on this?
I absolutely feel it is necessary. Right to medical aid is one of your fundamental rights, any citizen's fundamental rights. So when it comes to government hospital or private hospital, see, having insurance doesn't mean, although you don't belong to the economically weaker section of society, but there are maximum people out there who have insurance, but that doesn't mean that they have all the money to be spent and given to the hospital. That doesn't mean that all the savings that particular working class or middle class of the country needs to give it to the hospital. So regulation of rates is the need of the hour, and that is not just for COVID-19. I feel rate regulation should happen for different diseases, different kind of hospitalization. That may even help in curbing false hospitalization that happen. And many a times we come across such news that people just happen to go for hospitalization to avail insurance benefit.
Right.
So I think these are the loopholes. So regulating rates will help in a major way to come out of this loophole and look at the entire system from a new perspective.
That's nice. So Arpita, we had a great discussion and chat with you. How has the experience been?
It is firstly, it is a very good initiative that's being started, and I'm very happy to be associated with it. Somewhere I also felt that ever since I had been studying law, that legal awareness in our country is very less. Already the literacy rate is less, and out of those who are literate, you can still find that people do not really know what the law of their country is. So that I enjoyed this experience, the platform that is being given, and I think together we will be able to accomplish this motive of spreading the legal knowledge. Like I say, the basic law and understanding the blue in you. So we will be able to spread it to as many people as we can. And yes, we can.
Yes, we can, for sure. So, Arpita, so rather, I'll come to you afterwards. First, friends, this series that we are making is Jaagrook. We want people to know what their basic law is. Because, trust me, you can say ignorance of the law of the land is not an excuse. I repeat it once again. Ignorance of the law of the land is not an excuse for any criminal. अगर आपने कोई crime किया और आप बोलो कि आपको कानून नहीं मालूम है, this is not an excuse. इससे आप बच नहीं पाओगे. So जो basic law है हमारे देश का, हम आपके सामने बताना चाहते हैं इनको, and we have our very own Leo Arpita Bhatt, LLB Leo Arpita Bhatt, and she has started her own channel, Blue in You. If you can just brief about that as well.
Yeah, so Blue in You is at a nascent stage, and we have first started with our Instagram page, wherein we will be educating by way of various posts, articles, blogs about the basic law that we have in our nation, and along with that we will be having such kind of web series. We'll be having short videos, making and trying to interpret what the basic legal terms are. So I always believe that legal aid is free in this country, but for that you need to know when do you need the legal aid, right? And you very much need to know that what is the law. Like you rightly said, ignorance of law is not an excuse, which is the jurisprudential principle in India. And even this being the jurisprudential principle, there are people who are ignorant about the law of their nation, and our entire, as in this Blue in You, the agenda is to remove that ignorance, to clear off the smog and let people see the nation with what are the laws and rights that their own nation provide them. So that is the entire motive behind this. It's a complete non-profit motive, and like I said, that together we can.
Definitely, yes, we can. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed. मैं आशा करता हूँ कि आपको मजा आया. मजा से भी ऊपर you had an opportunity to learn something. आपको कुछ सीखने का मौका मिला यहाँ पे आपका समय इन्वेस्ट करके. Do stay tuned for more updates on this topic, और ऐसे टॉपिक कोई और टॉपिक है आपके दिमाग में जिसके बारे में आपको संक्षिप्त में ज्यादा जानकारी चाहिए तो please write it to us. We would love to bring this thing to you. And on that note, thank you so much and stay Jaagrook. Thank you.